Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and I am here today with Juan El Patron, who is 2-0 as an MMA fighter based in Colombia. A few months ago, we got connected through him coming to our house and training Graydon, Nathan, myself. He's an MMA fan and UFC enthusiast, and we get to talk about it all the time. But as we started connecting more, we realized there's a lot more to talk about. And if you watch some of my short form content, you see that this man is bilingual. He's a super hard worker. Being an MMA fighter to me is the hardest job in the entire world. And I wanted to get to know him a lot more today and find out what he's all about, what his mission is, what his short-term and long-term goals are, and ultimately get connected with you guys and my audience. See the next UFC champion over here. So Juan, the first thing I want to ask you is, you're obviously bilingual, and you speak it perfectly, and you have obviously American friends. How did you learn it without going to college?
As a normal Colombian, I started in high school, and we had in high school the subject English, and they give us books, they give us dictionary, and they give us some like starting process in English, but I always grab that and go home and I started learning through Google Translator, movies. I was listening to music with subtitles. Every single word that I didn't understand, I go and look for it, and then I just started to grow my dictionary, my vocabulary. The final touch for me to be able to speak to you right now and not just simply understand the language was me watching the Joe Rogan podcast. That was the main thing that I was doing every day. I was listening, talking to myself, because I didn't have anyone to talk to here, because in that time there was a few people that talked English and it wasn't that fluid. So it was literally through conversation with myself. In that way, I was able to learn. And then when I started meeting you guys from the US, from the UK, from Ireland, I was able to speak it. So it was just a matter of 1 month to be able to be fluid with it. So that was.
How long did it take you from when you started to actually feel like you can talk like confidently and be able to hold conversation? That's how I care about it. I don't care about you watching a movie or whatever, like being able to hold the conversation the way we are right now. How long did it take you from the second you started learning it?
So I can say I started like when I was a kid. Like my whole life I was obsessed to travel to the US and live in the US. Since I was 10, 11 years old I started it. And then I didn't have, it wasn't that I wasn't able before that, but the first time I was able to have a conversation with someone from the US was when I was 17. Like I knew before that, if I would have known someone when I was 13, 14, I would have been able to manage to hold a conversation. Yeah. But I just got the opportunity when I was like 17, 18 to hold my first conversation with someone. But that was like the main thing. That was like 8 years, but honestly it would have been less if I wouldn't be able to talk with someone in English.
100%. So obviously learning a language when you're younger is easier. I did that with English, you did that with Spanish. If someone is wanting to learn English today and they start a little later, because I always feel like, for me, when I meet someone that's in their 20s and they want to learn a language, it's not that it's impossible, it's just unlikely, right? But if they do want to learn it and they are ambitious and they want to, learn like the way you did, what would you recommend them to do if they start today, right? If they are looking to learn specifically English, if you're, in your early 20s, late teens, what would you do if you were in their shoes to be able to learn and master English?
So to be honest, I'll go to the source, because when you start learning English in a school, you're not gonna get the real English. You're gonna be like, hi. How are you? I'm fine. You're not gonna be able to hold a real conversation or express yourself in another language. So for me, it's always go to the source and literally go put yourself and talk with someone, an American, a guy from the UK, because that way, of course, you have to find someone that is able to teach you in a good way, that it can just be like phone, cellular, phone, like just showing objects. Like if you show a little kid, oh, this is this. So that's why I learned English, because I was able to associate this with the thing in Spanish. So I think that would be the best way for you to be able to learn and hold conversations and be able to work with US company or companies that just talk in English, is to go to the source and talk with someone that speaks the language and are able to show you how to like mix both. Oh, this is a wallet, billetera. Like being able to mix both worlds and go to the source. Don't go to school, because like for me personally, I wouldn't recommend it because you don't learn the real language. You just learn some words and that's it.
I agree. I love that. So let's rotate now to your career. So you're 24 years old. You're 2-0 as a professional fighter. Like I said, based in Medellin, Colombia. How did you get into this world? Because I think we talked about it at our dinner. I've been fascinated with MMA since Conor McGregor fight with Chad Mendes, 2015, July 2015, actually literally almost exactly 8 years ago, and became a Conor fan. And I think I told you this, but I became obsessed with MMA and really, UFC when he lost to Nate Diaz in March of the following year, because I was like, holy shit, people can lose like that? I thought he was invisible. I thought he was, So obviously watching his documentary and getting into fighters, now Israel Adesanya is my favorite fighter, and I get to see their journeys on YouTube and through fights. It is the craziest, by far the craziest shit of all time. Like, I feel like when you were a kid and someone told you would do what you are today, you'd be like, there's no fucking chance, right?
No
you wanted
chance.
to play soccer, and I know you're gonna get into it, but like, how did you go from wanting to play soccer and maybe working regular jobs to being a professional fighter?
So for me, it was a matter, I started this sport because I wanted to see that I wasn't a pussy. Meaning, my whole life I was always scared of confrontation. I showed people that I wasn't scared, so I was like brave and I was yelling and stuff. But always in the back of my mind, I'm like, if this goes for real, I'm not gonna be able to do anything. Because my whole life I was super skinny, no strength at all. I was super slow. So that way I truly had to learn how to defend myself, because I didn't have anything on me. I didn't have height, I didn't have weight, so I needed to learn how to defend myself. So that way I started to I have a connection with a friend that did Taekwondo, and when I was like 15, I saw him. We were playing soccer, and I saw the bully of our neighborhood. There was a guy that always was a skinny and short guy that always beat everyone's ass. And that day they were like confronting, and then my friend, the one that's doing Taekwondo, he just roundhouse kicked him and almost knocked him out. It was the craziest thing I ever been. Like, this guy was the man, and then this guy with just a kick just pull him to the floor, and it was the easiest thing. So I started connecting with him and started to go out with him a lot more. And I told him, like, hey, I need you to teach me how to do that, because I'm afraid of confrontation. First thing he ever do, he put me a pair of gloves and like, okay, let's fight. I was so scared. That was the first time I ever got my lip broken. I had like a blood on my face, whatever. And I was like, oh, this is not that bad. Like, I didn't like it at the beginning that much, but I saw that I wasn't a pussy. I was able to stay there. I'm like, okay, let me try this one a little more. I kept training with him. And also at the same time I was doing that, Conor McGregor was exploding.
So how old were you? How old were you at that time?
That had to be 2017. I was probably just 18, just turning
18. Okay.
17,
18.
Yeah.
So like right after high school, basically.
Yeah. Literally, I got out of high school. Next year, I was starting to train.
What was the first martial art you picked up?
It was Taekwondo.
Taekwondo's the first
because
one.
I went with this guy, and we have been sparring everything. Like, we spar everything, but the thing that he just trained was Taekwondo. So he took me to some Taekwondo classes and stuff. I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, this is not real fighting. And then I was watching Conor. I'm like, no, I need to go to an MMA gym. Fuck this. But that was my start. Like, it was like 2 months, but that's how I started.
So you started Taekwondo, you were 17, 18 years old, and then you obviously fell in love with the training and the competition and being able to be in great shape and challenge yourself every single day. Every time you step in the gym, you're challenging yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, everything, right? At what point were you like, I really like this and I feel like I can make money from this? And obviously you saw someone like Conor, but that's an anomaly. Like, why do you feel like watching him, what about it was it in you, what about it, this whole thing where you're like, I can make money from this, I want to make a living from this? Like, how did that, because training is one thing, fighting professionally is another thing, and then wanting to make this a career is 3 different things.
Yep.
So
for me was, I always, when I was growing up, I was always considered by people to be, we call it creído here, that would be like braggadocious. Like, always people thought that I was this mean guy that was just thinking himself as a shit. People always told me that. And then I was always trying to be someone that I'm not, like, just to please people. So when I started training, when I started being like that, and when I started watching Conor, I'm like, it's not that bad being braggadocious. It makes this guy being a fucking millionaire. Like, why am I hiding from my true self? I'm not egotistical. Like, I hate confrontation, but I always believe in myself. Even when I was playing soccer, I always believed that I can get better things in life. And since I was able to speak English, when I hear him talk, I'm like, dude, this is not impossible. Like, I always thought about doing something spectacular. I always want to be the best at one thing. I wanted to be the best. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I always wanted to be the best one. So honestly, it was blind confidence. Like, it was, the only confidence I had is that I knew that I wasn't a pussy after getting beat up, but I wasn't the best. I was just starting. But it was just because I started watching him just like 3 months when I would start training. So it was super simultaneously.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I saw in him that I'm like, I can be that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not far away from me, because I like to talk. I have the flow. I have my ways of talking to people. And I thought, okay, this is not a difficult route. This is a route that I can take. So it was mainly that.
It's crazy how many people Connor inspired on his come up, because I think him being Irish kid, coming with no money, not having a lot of people believe in himself besides the woman on his side, which you have a woman now that's helping you. Yeah, exactly. And then being able to take all that and then making it to yourself, because how my version of what I saw Connor was like, okay, I don't want to fight, but I want to be like him with business in a sense, right? And I think he was a source of inspiration to a lot of people, and it's super cool to see. So you're now 2-0 as a fighter with 2 finishes, and I want to talk a little bit about your opponent. So you've had, like I said, 2 fights here in Medellin. What can you tell us about your opponent without giving away all the secrets and all that cool stuff? What do you see that that you're going to be able to do? And
so in terms of competition here in Latin America, I truly, because I've trained with guys that have a good name here in Latin America, not just Colombia, but around Latin America. I truly believe I'm one of the best, if not the best, 135er. And I always accept fight with whoever. So this fight was like just, oh, you want to fight this guy? I'm like, okay. And he finished one of my training partners with a guillotine. So I'm like, okay, let me get my boy back. So what can I say about the guy? The guy is he's taller than me, and it's weird because in my weight class I'm big, but he's taller than me. He's skinny. He has reach. He's not the best at anything, but he works on everything. He works on his striking. He tries to do jiu-jitsu, but I can honestly say, without being braggadocious, he's never gonna submit me. He's not gonna knock me out. I'm just gonna take whatever he has to bring it to the fight, and I'm just gonna ragdoll him, because that's the main thing, and that's my main. And I can share this as Khabib shared that he was gonna wrestle everyone, and he still fuck everyone up. I'll share this. Nobody has a gas tank like me. Since I was a kid, I was never strong. I was never fast. But I always have the best cardio when I was playing soccer, when I was doing competitions or marathons and stuff like that. Even if I know it can end, because both of my fights end in the first minute last time, this one can end as quick as those ones, or even if it gets 15 minutes, I'll just gas him out to the point that he's gonna quit. So that's the only thing I see. I've seen myself putting the gas, putting the volume, going forward. He getting tired. He's gonna try to finish the fight early, because he knows if he goes the full 3 rounds with me, he's not gonna be able to maintain it. So I need to be cautious the first 1 to 2 minutes, or maybe I just go for the kill. I don't know what version of myself I'm gonna get at. Yeah. But I just see myself winning. That's the only way.
I find it so interesting in fighting where every single day that you show up is different. So how if the fight was Friday, you would show up as one person, and Saturday is another person, right? So I think it just boils down to how you show up, how he shows up, and then just everything that you've trained for the last few months. Your last fight was March?
My last fight was March.
Yeah, so it's been what, 3-4 months now. So now we're ramping things up. I love it. So last couple questions about this. Who has been the best training partner that you've trained with, and who is the most famous person you've ever trained with?
So it varies, because I've had a lot of good training partners. I have a lot of people that I consider this guy can go far, but it depends also on the weight, because you can, like, if I go and spar a guy that is 200 pounds and I don't know, he punches me and I feel it, I can say, oh, this guy is good, right? But it's because he has that power, he has that strength, and I'm gonna feel it more because I'm a little small. But in terms of technically, I've trained so much. So in terms of Muay Thai, because I've trained with a guy, the two guys that fought in Thailand. In Bogota, I trained with Ricardo Lasprilla and Daniel Torres. Those guys are based in Bogota, but they fought and trained and won fights in Thailand. So in terms of Muay Thai, that has been like the highest level I've ever trained. In terms of wrestling, I've trained with the Pan American champion from Colombia. He has beaten, I don't wanna have a fight here, but he has finished guys from the US. He has won against all the US guys, so that's one of the best. He's the best wrestler I ever encountered. But in terms of MMA, dude, you put me in a hard spot, because I have three guys that I'm considered the best. I can say one right now is my training partner, Lobo Vasquez. He's been growing technically a lot, but no one has that man's heart.
What weight class is he in?
He's gonna fight 135.
135, okay.
Dude, nobody has a heart like that guy. Yeah. Like nobody. I've seen him in situations where he's both eyes shut off, and he just keeps going forward. So that guy's a crazy guy. But right now I can say not technically the best, because I know there's guys in the gym that are pretty good, but this guy is just, even if those guys are better technically than him, he's just gonna go for it and get those guys. So I consider that much better.
Who would you say the most famous person you've ever trained with?
Well, I trained recently, not directly, because he was like, I think he was injured, but I trained besides Henry Cejudo. He came here. Famous.
It's difficult, Anthony Pettis too, right?
Yeah, I saw Sergio. I talked to them directly, but they, like, every time they come here, they just want to hang. They don't want to train. I don't know.
Medellin.
Yeah, they just want to hang here. So they haven't trained with us. So, dude, I can say, well, the most famous one that comes into mind right now is a girl that I've trained her too, Alejandra Zulara. She fights in Bellator.
Nice.
She has fought for Bellator championships.
Oh, wow.
I can say that she's
Badass.
the most, she's pretty famous on Instagram. So she's been like the
amazing. So you're 2-0, fighting this weekend. We're gonna go 3-0. What are your short-term plans for the next, let's say you're 24, by the time you're 26, 27, and where do you hope to be in the next like 10 years?
So I think maybe if a good offer comes to me, I'll change my mind. But I think this is my last fight this year, because I've been fighting now in 9 months. I have fought three times. So I wanna relax a little bit, work on my skills, not just fight, because I'm still young, so I can grow a lot more. So the short-term goals, to be honest, in the next 2 to 3 years, are able to keep growing in Latin America, being able to beat Mexicans, Peruvians, Ecuadorians, and now when we got 10, 11 fights in, be able to go to the US. And because when we get hired to fight people from the US, it's for them to have a good record. Like they normally hire us to fight there, and like people from here, they just go because of the experience.
Money.
But the money and the experience, but they always get beat. I truly believe it, because I've trained with professional fighters from the US, that I can go there and beat 90% of the US guys. But you guys have experience over us. Like I have the skills, but the experience is pretty important. So I need to build that experience first, need to get like 8 to 9 to 10 fights, and then from there being able to grab fights from the US, LFA, Combate America. There's a lot of Lux Fight League. There's a lot of fight leagues that I can get fights in, and after I get a name those in those fight promotions, now is the future, the long-term goals that we talked about, to get into the UFC or one championship. That will be the two companies that I want to fight in.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see all these people, MMA fighters, Khabib being one of them, has an insane padded record up until he went to UFC. Yeah. Obviously, he's one of the GOATs and undefeated, but I do think that, Latin America as a whole is blowing up, because Brazil's always been good at MMA, but now you see yesterday, Michael Morales, right, from Ecuadorian.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cheeto. There's Colombia's on the rise. Argentina's coming together. So it's cool to see because people here are super athletic. They're hardworking, right? And they have crazy stories. You guys don't come from money and wealth. Where in the U.S., I think the biggest advantage the U.S. has over Latin America is the gyms and the training partners and all that stuff. The facilities, that helps, and the nutrition overall, you know. But I think here, like, you have the grit and the hard work and like the raw talent, exactly. And you know, it's interesting to see. So, Patron, this is part one of our long term. So I'm excited to do part two with you, and I appreciate your time.
Sure,
Boom.